Right then. Referencing. Black pen. Oh, yes. Hi. Black pen shows up the best on the board, so that's what you're doing. Okay. Referencing. Why do we do it? It's not a trick question.
Because plagiarism is illegal.
Yes, because plagiarism is illegal. You are not allowed to plagiarise, and we will in fact fail you in assignments if you plagiarise. Are you all scared? Fear is a great motivator. Don't worry, you won't plagiarise on purpose. Okay, why else do we do it? Why else do we do it?
To give credit.
To acknowledge people, that's right. Give credit where it's due. If you've spent 3 years studying this one topic and you've written a massive book about it, then you kind of need people need to say, you did that. So, yep, it's give credit. Okay, there are 2 other reasons that I can think of.
If people think you're wrong or like misusing what the person's saying, sort of maybe out of context, they can look and they can check to see what that person's
They
saying.
can indeed check, yeah. And kind of related to that is if they're really fascinated with what you've said, they can actually go to your reference list and read the whole book by that particular person if they're interested in it. Yep.
So they can sort of follow you train a little bit to see how you learn particular questions.
That's not so much about the referencing, that's about how you actually write the work. But the 4th one is actually maybe the most important and it's the hardest one to guess. And that is,
It demonstrates that you've read widely and you have a massive knowledge base that you're writing on.
and it makes you look really, really smart. I thoroughly recommend doing it. They will never complain that you've got too many references. They will complain, well, this is the mysterious markers. They will complain if you don't have enough. Because if you have a lot of references, then you're standing on the work of a whole lot of different people. You're not kind of teetering on one person's theory, which might be really weird. So, Having said that, though, there's a limit to how much time you've got, and you can actually end up having too many references and not synthesising well. So don't get carried away. Okay, so there are 2 parts to referencing. If you've got your little sheet, the quick referencing reference. I can leave with these, but I can leave with these if you didn't bring it today, but I'd like to make sure you got one here. Oh, actually, sorry, one please.
Do you have a role? When we're doing our next session. Or will we do it just how it's
I can tell that you all know each other for this morning because you're all talking to each other. That's really good. There's a piece of paper coming around. If you just have a list of names on it, those are your names, and if you just add your name to it and pass it on. Okay. There are 2 parts to referencing. There's what you do in the actual essay, and then there's a reference list that comes after your work. What you put in the essay, if you just remember this, if you get, there are lots of different resources. There's lots of different places where you can get the information. If you have a look on this side down here, it gives you a list of a number of them, like a book with 1 author, a book with 2 authors, an electronic author, a journal, lecture notes, newspaper articles. This is not exhaustive. There are other places you can get information. This is just a general one of the main ones to make your life easier. If you want to, if you get information from a video, or actually it's here, but if you get information from a master's thesis or something that's all, and you don't know what to do, if you go on the BTI Online Learning Centre Online Helpful Resources thing, when you first click on that Online Helpful Resources, there's a link that appears which is called, you might want to write this down because you'll probably forget where to find it, Google QuickSight. It's I can't remember the actual website, but I think it's something like www.quicksite.com but it's from Auckland University, and it's their reference insight. It's their reference insight, and it's really easy to use. You choose your reference. Well, I can show you later on if we have enough time anyway. And that's quite a good one for all the extra bits and pieces. If you're doing very obscure ones, then there is a blue book in the library called the APA Guide, which is insanely difficult to follow, but it does have everything in it. It's actually in my office, so you can come and ask me and I'll find it for you. But mostly, I would just recommend that you find the information somewhere easier. So mostly the information, if it's a really obscure course, then you can probably find that same information somewhere less obscure that's easier to reference. I say make your life easier. Okay. So in the essay, what you need to remember is always you need the surname of the person who had the idea and the date. So whether it's a book or a journal article, whatever it is, or an electronic source, you need the surname and the date. And excuse me. Bearing in mind, of course, that you will have paraphrased beautifully their idea. Beautiful paraphrasing. This is your beautiful paraphrasing here. Then you put the surname in here and the year that it was published.
Penny,
Yes.
so paraphrasing rather than quoting directly.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let me talk about that right now. If you quote something, then you're plucking the information out of their book and you're plopping it into yours, and it doesn't actually show that you've interacted with it as much as if you pluck it out of theirs and you think about it really deeply, and then you mix it with other ideas that you've got, and then you write it down. That shows much better processing by you. You've actually thought about it. The other thing is that if you will read readings that have got lots and lots of quotes in them, and it's really difficult to read because people have a writing style. You have a writing style. No matter how good your English is, you have a writing style. And if you have a whole lot of quotes all stuck together with a few words of your own, it's really unsettling to read because you're jerking up and down because you're bouncing from one writing style to another, and it's actually quite disruptive. So if you can gather all the thoughts together and write them in your own words, it's much smoother to read. That sounds kind of odd, but it is actually the case. If you pluck a quote out, what people tend to do is, this is a trap for young players, what people who are starting out tend to do is they tend to write some stuff of their own or write some big ideas or whatever, and then they stick a quote in and then they write a bit more stuff and they say, oh look, I've got references in my work so it's going to be fine. But if you have a quote stuck in the middle of a whole lot of other writing, it's kind of like, it's like if you make a cheese scone, then you can have the cheese and you can stick it on the outside of the scone and it makes a cheese scone. Or you can take the cheese and you can mix it in with the dough and the whole sort of cheesy all the way through. Not that I'm suggesting you write cheesy essays, but but if you mix it in, it's much better than having it stuck on the outside. You know, like those raisins that get stuck on the outside and go burnt and crunchy and horrid. You know, mix it in with the actual dough. Don't have. I call them orphan quotes, and often people will do this with the Bible, with Bible quotes. They'll write all this stuff and they'll have all this information from other people, and then they'll put this random quote in there from the Bible, and then they'll keep going. And sometimes people even write, and then they have this quote, and then they write, and it's like, poor little lonely guy out in the middle of nowhere. It's like, that is not a paragraph, and it's not a quote. I mean, it's not actually useful. That right there, I look at that and think, beefing up the word count. Yeah. Yeah. So don't do that. We know your tricks. We do. Don't do it like that. Mix your paraphrasing and your ideas and your quotes. If you must quote, then mix them in with the paragraph so that they sit solidly in a bed of beautiful English. Yeah. Okay, there was a hand waving.
Even if you're quoting the Bible, would you paraphrase a Bible quote?
You can paraphrase the Bible, yes, you won't get struck down. I've done it.
Maybe your special penny.
Yeah. I saw this t-shirt once and it said, Jesus loves you, but I'm his favourite. I really like it. So yeah, I'm special. David's favourite, but so are you. Anyway, you can paraphrase it. If you just want to take a general idea from the Bible that's fairly commonly known, like God loves people, then you can just put God loves people, and then you do it the same way that you do when you're paraphrasing. So you, instead of saying, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believed in him would not perish but have eternal life. Instead of saying that, you can just say God loves people, and then put John 3:16 to show where that idea came from. But you don't actually have to write the verse out. If you want to write the verse out,
beef up the word count.
it's so shallow, but yes, no. If you want, I would say, let me say this about quotes because it's kind of crucial. If you want to quote something, make sure that you are only quoting it because it is a brilliantly profound idea that is written in the most extraordinary fashion. And you don't need to quote the whole sentence. You just might need a phrase, 3 or 4 words. So quote those 3 or 4 words and leave the rest of the stuff that they wrote around it. Leave it out because it doesn't always illustrate what you want to say. I guess really that I'm pressuring you not to use quotes to beef up your word count. You're using quotes because they say something in an absolutely brilliant way that you couldn't possibly put any other way. Yes.
If you're doing what you just said, do you use ... like if you've come in part way through a sentence or you're tailing off at the end, can you do half?
Okay. When you are writing academically, you must write complete sentences all the time. So no bullet points, no half phrases. If you don't know what I mean, then when you've written your work, read it out loud and stop at a full stop and take a breath at a comma. And if it doesn't make sense, if a sentence doesn't stand by itself, doesn't stand alone by itself, then it's not a sentence. I'm getting distracted. So for that purpose, you have to take those 3 or 4 words that you've taken from the quote, and it has to sit within a complete sentence. So you need to write a sentence around it so that it makes sense. Yeah. If you need to, you could say something like, I hate these moments. I've said that before, but I still say it. I hate these when I have to think of an example. You could say, look, okay, here's a profound idea. We teach who we are. Forgive me that it's a teachy one, but it's the best I can do at the moment. We teach who we are. I could say, Palmer in 1986 states, we teach who we are, full stop. That is a complete sentence. Palmer states, we teach who we are. Or I could say, I can't just say, teach who we are. That's not a sentence. It has to be sitting within something else. And even if I'm writing a whole lot of stuff and then I have full stop and then footnotes and say, we teach who we are, Parker of Palmer in 1986, and then you could go on. That we teach who we are sitting by itself in the middle of my paragraph. It doesn't actually make any sense. So just make sure that you don't have any orphan quotes that are just sitting there. Don't expect the reader to make the very obvious connection that you can see between the quote and what you've written. Make the connection for them. You have to make it easy for them to understand what you're saying. So, yeah. I just say that because the tendency is often to beef up the word count and to make you look smart.
But in the original text, if we teach who we are was then continuing on in a sentence, you wouldn't put ... within the quote marks to show that it was a full sentence.
No, you don't need to do that.
Cool.
Let me tell you that when you are doing... if you are doing a direct quote, then it might be something like this. If you're doing a direct quote, you have to put quotation marks around it to show me that those are the bits that are exactly out of that book. That's why we do it. And as well as that, you have to put the page number in there.
To write down a phrase, do we have to? We don't have to use quotation marks for a phrase.
If you're quoting it directly, then yes, you do. But if you're paraphrasing it, if you're paraphrasing it, you don't have to, because that is when you do this, you're saying these are my words, but it's his idea. here you're saying, these are my words and maybe my idea, but this is his idea and his words. So if there's any mistakes in here, it's his fault, not mine. That's really what you're saying. Yeah.
So if you are paraphrasing it, you need the page number.
If you're paraphrasing it, you don't need the page number. You don't. Only because there's no point in us going back to check to make sure that that's right. Paraphrased anyway.
With paraphrasing, I know that we're not talking about paraphrasing, but is it a learned thing? Is there somewhere you can go to learn paraphrasing? I know you say it's simple just to rearrange somebody's words, but it can be really hard to try.
Yes, you can come and see me another time if you like, and we'll do some paraphrasing, and I'll do some practice. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I know you guys were at high school, but I just
Yeah. Yes, there are ways you can do it, and you do get better at it, like driving a car. And after a while, you don't think about it. It isn't easy though. I mean, driving a car is easy now. Paraphrasing does take a bit of brain to matter, but it does get easier, and you get better at sucking out the main ideas. Okay, so in summary of this small section, in your essay you need the surname and the year, and if you're quoting, then you need the surname and the year and quotation marks and a page number. Good? Yes. If you have a book that's written by two people, same deal.
What was that for, sorry?
That's for a book that's written by two people. Litchfield and Litchfield. That is two people. That's not Litchfield times two. Pardon?
What about if it's an editor?
If it's an editor, then we're interested in who wrote the idea. So it won't be the editor because they didn't write the idea. It's the author of that chapter here. It's the author of the idea that we're putting in here, not the book that it came from.
You know how you say reference as you go, so that means
Yes.
your reference list is going to be in the order of what the order is that the quotes come, cites come in your essay.
That's a very good question, but it's not.
But then you have to go back later and do it alphabetically, is that right?
Okay, when in the reference list, we'll get to the reference list later, but the reference list must be in alphabetical order. Because you are putting, what the reference list is for, is people can read this idea and think, oh, that's brilliant, I want to know more about that. So they whip to your reference list, and they need to be able to find this easily, and the easiest way to do that is to make it alphabetical in the reference list, so they can just go to the surname and find it. So when I say references as you go, I mean put these names in when you're writing. I can't remember what
Citing as you go.
This is Penny's essay method. Choose one colour and write a standalone paragraph on that theme. You know, the orange pen. Yeah. When you're doing that, you need to put the references in as you go. Don't leave it until the end. Let me plead with you. Don't leave it until the end because you will forget where those ideas came from. And it's minimum effort. It's stitch and time saves 9. If you pitch this idea from someone and then you put where it came from, you don't have to think about it again because you know where it came from because you just read it there, so you know where it came from. Please don't leave it until the end. So when I say reference as you go, I mean do this
Do that
as you go. And actually, when I'm writing essays, as soon as I've written something in the actual text, I go over here and make sure it's in the reference list because partly that means there's good congruence between these two sections.
Yeah.
But also it means that when I'm getting depressed about how I'm getting in my essay, I look at the reference list and say, oh look, it's getting bigger, I must be getting somewhere. Yes?
Do I understand correctly that this is being done instead of the footnoting that we were so strictly taught?
Yes. Footnoting is a different system. This is APA, which stands for the American Psychological Association. Lovely, darling. So we use it because most of the straight universities in New Zealand use APA. I've worked at the Polytech and they use it. Wairiki use it. Waikato use it. Massey uses it. Canterbury uses it. Otago uses it. Victoria uses it. There you go. It's kind of the However complicated it might seem, it's actually the easiest. So we could make it harder for you. Other systems are better designed for scientific or medical journals. They use different systems for different reasons. But we use APA because it's reasonably straightforward and because it's common.
Sorry, how do we link between our reference list and what's, other than writing it in the body of the essay and over on the reference side, how do you link it? Is that...
Okay, what, you basically, this is the link right
so
here.
you don't need, like I've just seen in lots of other writings where they had like number one.
Little
number
numbers.
one over
Yeah,
time,
no.
you don't want all that
No,
stuff.
we want to say this idea comes from this bloke here, and if you want to know more about this bloke here, go to the reference list because all the information will be there.
So that's
Yeah, that's it, yeah. That's why it's easier.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Would you ever get a situation where that bloke there happened to do 2 publications in the same year?
Yes.
So then how do you know which one you're referring to on that?
When that happens, you go, oh, why didn't he just... Okay, what you do, it's not very common, and I don't think it'll happen in your first year. It usually only happens with magazine articles because it's hard to write more than 1 book a year. But what you do is you just put an A there, and then the second one that they do, you put a B, and then over here you have surname 2007 A, and which book it was, and B. What is more likely to happen is if you write this profound idea here, and it was actually found in 2 different books. Now, let me just say, it's very, very smart if you can say that the same idea came from 2 different books. It's really good. It makes the lecturers go, wow. So you know, do it.
But it's not still an A+.
It gives them a slightly, it sort of heads you slightly more in that direction, the A+ direction. Okay, this is the first, I better be a bit more specific. Okay, this idea, just so we're clear, this idea, you found the same idea in 2 books. The first book was Smith, 2007, and the second place you discovered it was in Brown. It doesn't matter what order the idea appeared in which book. These ones here, they must be in alphabetical order.
So it's not based on date of publishing.
No. Oh, sorry, no, I should change that. So good point, thank you. Although I don't really recommend that you use books published last century. It's better if you use them.
Unless it's Freud.
Unless it's Freud, yeah. Okay, so these go in alphabet. If you think about a semicolon, think about it as being a really beefy kind of comma. Like, this is a little itty bitty comma that goes in between these 2 things that you're trying to separate. This is like a big substantial separation, so we need a bigger, more substantial comma. Really, that's what that checks for. And just in terms of writing essays and English, I would say when you're writing an essay, just don't use semicolons at all, because people never use them in the right way. And I did actually mark one essay that had beautiful semicolon use, and I commended the woman on her use of semicolons, and she said, oh, I just guessed, I didn't really know. So you can always write it in a different way, and semicolons, they make your sentences really long usually, and you may as well just stop and start again. So don't get all fussed about punctuation, just don't use semicolons and you'll be fine. Unless, you won't get marked down for using semicolons, but probably the lecturers don't know how to use them properly either.
Just to complicate matters, Penny,
Yes, go.
I know I remember this from last year, but I can't remember how you do it. What about when you are citing something which is a quote within another?
Okay, if sometimes people do that. You're reading a book and they quote someone else in the book and you want that quote that they've got. The most cunning thing to do is to actually go to the book that the quote was in originally, because then you get another book for your references. And you're actually, more importantly, you're actually reading that quote within its original context. So I'd rather say do that than quote it within. But if you must, there are ways of doing it. And I just don't want to confuse
No,
you with details. But you say Brown as cited in Smith
Oh, okay.
and on these certain pages or whatever. So it's you can do it, but it's really cumbersome. And for the actual meat of what you're saying, it's better to go to the original source. Yes.
In theory, you wouldn't have to actually go back and get the book because they would have referenced it in the back.
Yes, but the reference list is actually the list of books to which you referred. So it's a grey area. Yes.
I see.
Yes, depends on how what sort of integrity levels you have. Yeah, no, but in theory you don't have to. And what I do actually is sometimes put the quote in quotation marks within Google and see if it comes up in an online document because they're easier to find than physical books. I don't know if I've shown you this, but when you're looking for, you can actually look for phrases in Google. This is a wee aside. You know how you get this big long box like this? If you put quotation marks around it, and you say, teach who we are, it will look for that phrase as a phrase. It won't look for teach and then who and then we and then are. It'll look for that as a single image. So if you find a quote from someone stunning that you really like and you want to get the original, put it in like this and it will come up with where that actually comes from. That's a good way to check to see that you're not plagiarising stuff as well.
Is it better to use Google Scholar in that case?
Is it better to use Google Scholar? Yeah, but you can find a lot of stuff on just Google anyway.
Do you mean that whatever we're looking for is in the speech marks?
This is if you're looking for the origin of a particular phrase, or if someone said something and you can't remember where they said it, or someone quotes something in the lecture and you think that's brilliant, I want that in my essay, then you can just write down exactly what they say and then Google it like this, and you can find out the original source. It's quite a useful thing. It's actually quite good too to find the names of books and song lyrics and other things like that.
Perfect.
Pardon?
Google.
Just stick it into the Google box. Yes. That was just a little referencing bonus for you. Okay. Okay, I think that's probably enough about this. Remember, in the essay, surname and date. Surname of the author and date.
Is there a simple way to find out how to reference like the Code of Ethics?
Yes, we'll get to that. If the author isn't a person, sometimes the author is an organisation, like the New Zealand Association of Counsellors. That's an organisation, and they put their name on something and say, we are producing this, we are the author. In that case, you have New Zealand Association of Counsellors in here.
Do you write it out in full?
You write it out in full? Okay, that's a good question. Let's not leave that just yet. Oops. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Just sort of okay. Now the first time you write this, you have to write it out in full. But if you know that you're going to be referring to the New Zealand Association of Counsellors a lot, then you can do this fancy trick here and go. Okay, this is like brackets within brackets. So you can't use round brackets because you've already used them, so we use square brackets. If you wanted to use round brackets again inside there, then you could. But it's kind of like nesting brackets. So that's the square brackets. But that means that you're actually saying to the reader, from now on, and I'll talk about the New Zealand Association of Counsellors, I'm not going to write that, I'm just going to write this to restrict my word count. And you can use that you can use that in the sentence as well if you want to. You can go NZAC. Oh, it's not. I'm sorry, that was a bit confusing. You can't start the sentence with an abbreviation. So if you did want to start a sentence with New Zealand Association of Councillors, you had to write it out. So that's why it's sort of, that's why I've done it like that, but it's not start a sentence. And just while I'm here, actually just change it and say. Okay, now this is talking of, maybe I'm going to say something about the Code of Ethics that was written by the New Zealand Association of Councillors, or about that association being formed. If you just edit that out of the video, okay, because that wasn't a very good bit. You know how I said, write your blurb and then put the surname and the date? You can also say, I don't know, Smith, 2009, states that children have issues or something. I don't know what it is. Councillors have issues. Anyway, you can put it like that if you want to. But this then says that Smith is actually the subject of the sentence. We're talking about Smith. We're talking about something that Smith says. And in your essay, unless you're doing a literature review, it's actually this bit that is the crucial bit. So you can say it like that, but it's actually better in terms of the meat of getting your point across to just say children have issues. Smith, 2009. Yes.
So the first one would be more what you'd use if you're trying to like analyse the change in perspective over the centuries. And
Yes.
Like, well, this is how Smith described it, and this is how someone else described it.
Well, I mean, if you're comparing, because that is, you are actually talking about the author, but mostly in your essays you're talking about the actual subject. So this is much beefier than saying this is about Smith. You'll notice that the word count has dropped a little, but this is much punchier. I don't think that you'll have trouble with the word count.
Citations counted in the word count.
Officially, quotes that are more than 40 words aren't, but the other ones are. But realistically, we don't go through and count how many there are anyway.
But the bits and brackets are part of the word count as well.
Well, yes, but you've got 10% either side of the word count,
Oh, yeah.
So usually we just say, well, that's just part of the 10%. So yeah, it's not exactly right. Yeah.
I think you wouldn't be putting speech marks around the children who have issues.
No, because that's not a direct quote. If it was a direct quote, he would have put it much more eloquently than that, because Andrew Smith is a very good writer. So he wouldn't have just said children have issues. But if this is paraphrasing his ideas.
It's all paraphrased.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, it probably sounds pedantic, but if it's just paraphrasing, is it right to use the word states? If you're not really stating it, you've reworded it, or would that not really matter?
I did think that when I said that, and I thought, oh, maybe no one will notice. Yes, you do. 17. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Okay, are we good with this?
Yeah.
Please hear me on this. Even if you don't get it right perfectly the first time, do it anyway. Do it. Don't sort of run away from it because you don't know how to do it. Just have a go at it. If you don't do it at all, then basically you're saying that everything that I've written in this essay is my own work. And that's not altogether true, because you will have been grabbing things from other people's readings. So do it. It's not that tricky. Surname and date. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to move the reference list over here so that the chap over there can read it. Okay, your reference list goes at the top of a new page after all your writing. If you want to make sure that it stays at the top of a new page, Then type references, put your cursor here, so it's going flash, 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 and then hit Control, Enter.
What was that?
Can you say that again?
Yes. The reference list goes at the top of a new page after your essay is finished. If you want to make sure that it always stays at the top of a new page and doesn't shuffle up and down depending on what you write before that, put your cursor here, write references, put your cursor there, and then hit Control Enter. It'll just be like magic. That will keep it at the top of the page, top of the new page, and no matter what you write up here, it won't move it up and down. It's called a page break for those people who know about these things. Yes. Okay, references. Alphabetical order. Let us. What you had in your text was the surname, so that's what you put first here. So let's go. Adams, comma, P, 2010, full stop. Right, now, if you look on your little sheet, you'll notice that there is italics, and we're looking at this side now, we've finished looking at this side. Look at this side here, you'll notice that there are full stops and commas and italics and brackets and spaces. They are all critical. You can't just, you can't just do it your way, you have to do it the APA way. Just like you can't just drive through town the way you want to. You have to stay to the left-hand side of the road, you have to stop at lights and things. It's not like you'll get hit if you do the APA things wrong, but you do, there's a convention and you need to follow it. So get a bit fussy about it. And let me say this too, is that people don't like referencing. I don't know anyone who goes, woohoo, referencing! They just don't do it because it is pedantic and it is fussy. But like driving a car, you do get better at it. And I can write this referencing thing up there without even thinking about it now because I know how to do it. So just learn how to do it and then it won't hurt so much. Okay. So, surname, comma, space, initial, full stop, space, bracket, year, bracket, full stop. Check. Title, in italics. Full stop. This is for a book with one author because it's the easiest. In the old days, you used to underline the title. And in the old days, you used to put capital letters for every significant word in the title. None of that. We are people of the new millennium. We write it in italics. Capital letter for the first word and for any proper nouns, like if you're writing New Zealand or someone's name or that kind of thing. Because that's just polite English. But for the rest of the words, it's just small letters. Sometimes you have a subheading. If you do that, then you have a colon here, and the subheading starts with a capital, but if there are extra words on the end, they don't get capitals.
Is this subheading italicized?
Yes. Oh yeah, sorry. My bad.
Excuse me, yes. So, and with the title, even though they've used capitals on their title, we don't.
Correct. And even if they say to you online, even if they say to you, this is how you reference it using APA, don't believe them because they hardly ever get it right. Just telling you that. And what you can do is you can copy it from your course outline, and they are pretty right. They're mostly right, but some of them are not perfectly right. So we do our best, but we do make mistakes. So you can copy them from there, and it's pretty close, but it's not altogether perfect because I haven't checked everyone with my fine brain working brilliantly. So yeah, there are mistakes in that, but it's mostly right. So you can just copy and paste from your course outline, which is quite a good way of doing it. Yep.
Any of that you who checked their referencing, or is it the lecturer?
It's the lecturer.
That's good.
Yes. I will tell you though that Ruth Andrew Smith is the queen of referencing, and she is my person to whom I go when I have trouble with referencing, because she knows way more about it than I do. She's very fussy, and she's married to Andrew Smith. So his referencing is also superb. So, and actually Barbara Boltley, she's fanatical about referencing as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not really a soft option having the counselling social work people check your referencing, because they're just as tough as me.
So if you quote from Andrew Smith a lot, will Ruth give us an A+?
I don't know, it depends on their map. I will say this to you, that if you just flick me your reference list and say, can you check this for me, I'm quite happy to do that. It takes me about 10 seconds because I'm just used to seeing what needs to be seen. So just flick it to me and I'll check it for you. Especially when you're doing your first essay and you're paranoid. Like when you've been here a few years and you're just being lazy, don't send it to me because you're being lazy. Only send it to me if you're being scared, okay? Subheading extra words, full stop. Then what you need is you need the place, which is the city. This is not italics. City and country. Do not write Auckland NZ. NZ is not a country. It's New Zealand. UK is not a country. It's the city and the country. Okay, now that you've got this firmly fixed in your head that it's a city and a country, it's a city and a country, except when it's in America, because it's the American Psychological Association. And so, if it's in America, you need the city or the town, or the city, and you need the two-letter abbreviation of the state. And you don't need to put the USA, because everyone in the whole world knows that TN stands for Tennessee and that that's in America. Because slightly cynical penny, because it is the American Psychological Association and that is the whole world. So, so for example, you might have New York. You might have, I don't know, Grand Rapids. Lots of books get published there.
Yes.
You might. Let's see, you know already. You might have Houston, Texas, TX. Do you know where you find this information? It's
Google it.
well, you can Google it, or you can just look in your book, because this is called the title page. This is me being a primary school teacher. This is called the title page, and most of the information that you need will be on the back of the title page. So that will have the latest year of publication, which is the one that you want here. The latest date that you can find on the back is this one, is that one. It will have who wrote it, it will have the place that it was published, and it will also have this last piece of information that you need, which is the publisher. Okay, now what, yes?
If you have a author,
Yes.
say Smith Andrew, and there are two Smiths A's, do you ever use their first name in full in your referencing? So if there was an Aaron Smith or an Andrew Smith?
I don't know actually. I have to look at my little book because it's never happened. You usually use both initials if I've got two initials, so that kind of limits it down, cuts it down a bit. You've only got at the most you'll have probably in your first year you'll have like 7 to 10, 5 to 7 references. So you're unlikely to have a double up like that. But if that does happen, then email me and say, look, I had this problem that I mentioned. Look in the book for me. Yes, I suspect you probably do put the first name on, but then you might get two English notes. Yes.
This is probably off task, but why do you write down publishers? Like, why is that important?
To make it easy to find the book. If they actually want to buy, if you want to buy the book, say you're reading my essay and you think it's a fantastic idea and you actually want to buy the book, it's the way you can actually track down the book by going to its publisher.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, now you can tell right there that you're going to get in trouble with the width of your page, aren't you? Because clearly it's not going to be that long. Your page isn't going to be that wide. So let me just say that when you get to the end of the page, when you go down to the next line, it needs to be indented. So let's maybe run out of space here. It doesn't matter where in the actual information that you run out of space. You need to drop down to the next line and indent it. The way you do that, probably the easiest thing for me to do is to say, Google, look up in your Word document, look up hanging indent. I will beef up the computer and show you how to do it later, but it's basically a hanging indent is what you need, and it's by far the easiest way of doing it. Don't use tabs and don't even hit the space bar to move along. Use a hanging indent because it will format your whole page and you'll never have to think about it again. I could tell you by memory how you do it, but I'd rather show you because you probably remember better. Oh yeah, and the other thing about APA is that it's not just a referencing style, it's actually a whole style of writing academically. And the thing that you need to remember is, you can write this down, don't look at me, write down left justified only. You know, when you're reading stuff, when you're reading stuff in a newspaper and in a book, it looks like this.
Yeah.
Not for APA. I don't care if you like it. You have to have it like this. All scruffy and messy looking.
That's the body of the text. That's
the body of the text, and it's also the reference list. Yeah. I'm just telling you, I'm sorry, there are lecturers here who just can't stand these justified, but it is the APA convention and you need to do it. And the reason for that, if you want a reason, is because the spaces are all really important in this area, and if you stretch it out, then the spaces look really odd. So that's why they do it, to keep that consistency.
Along those lines.
Along those lines.
In the body of your essays, can you go over the margins and the line spacing?
Okay. In BTI Online, because people keep asking me exactly how to do that, that's how to format essays. What I did was I just put up a sheet. I talked to all the lecturers and said, we need to have some sort of convention. We don't actually have a standard set way. This is how you must this is how you must present your essays. What we like, and you can write this down, is size 12 font. If you think about it, most of your lecturers are oldish. And most of them, I'm just being realistic. People don't usually do PhDs when they're 20. And the other thing is they have a lot of essays to mark and they're doing them late at night. So make it easy for them to read. So size 12 font. 1.5 line spacing is kind because they will want to write comments maybe in between your words. The margins are just standard, normal, everyday margins. We don't want a great big fat one over one side for writing comments. We'd rather write in between the lines.
It's about 2.5.
Helen does.
Helen does?
Helen Trouton does.
Okay.
She prefers a wider margin on your left.
Excellent.
She'll
Ask Helen what she wants if you want.
It's in the course outline.
Okay, there we go. It's in the course outline. Don't listen to me. Penny, listen to Helen.
Generally, your lecturers will tell you what they want, like what spaces they want that margin.
Okay, so the other thing to think about is that you don't use pretty colours. Don't use really interesting fonts like Comic Sans. don't use bold to make an emotional statement in your writing. Don't use capitals. Don't use exclamation marks. You are not appealing to my emotions. You're appealing to my head. So it needs to be measured and calm and totally logical and sensible, and none of this kind of whoa kind of stuff. Make me go whoa because of the brilliance of your ideas, not because you've made it flashing on the page, you know. Yeah. It's not entertainment. You aren't entertainment.
Which font?
Which font? I haven't said that yet. Something boring, like you can do Times New Roman, but Arial or Tahoma or Calibri, one of those ones. Just clean and uncomplicated. You can use Times New Roman, but it's kind of more modern to use something else. But we won't growl at you for doing that if you love it. What else? Oh yeah, every assignment needs to have a cover page. You can get that off BTI online. It's on the right hand side down the bottom, somewhere in there. Yeah.
So we need to put our student ID and the name of the course on
a header or a footer. Yeah. It's I would say this. It's kind of it's a cover yourself kind of plan to use a header or a footer that has your name on it and the page number. Sometimes, not very often, but it has been known to happen that pages, if it's a physical assignment that's been sent in, sometimes a page, when I say sometimes, I don't know if it's ever happened. It's possible that a page could go missing, and it's really useful if a page shows up and it's got your name and the page number on it. You know.
I've had a lecturer ring me up at home saying after pages and this and that, found somewhere completely different.
Okay, great. So sometimes it can be your fault.
Yeah, they were numbered.
Numbered, yeah, thank you. Okay, so yeah, just be sensible about that. We don't, like, in terms of the numbers or your name, well, your lecturers will know you. So put your name down there, because then they know who you are. It's not like NCEA. You don't have to be incognito. You don't have to be, a secret, mysterious number person. You can just be who you are. Yeah. Okay. Good questions though. Yes.
Some essays are sent and emailed,
Yes.
and when I emailed one last year, they said no cover sheet for email stuff, but yes for hard copy.
Okay.
Is that across the board, or is that a specific lecturer? Because I asked.
I suppose if you're emailing it and you're putting it in an assignment Dropbox, then we know which course it's coming from and we know who it's coming from, so you don't need it for.
Because like in
assignment
Canberra,
Dropbox.
you can click on an online cover sheet, and I couldn't find one, so I asked.
Yeah, you don't really need it. That's a good point, I think. Okay. More questions? Yep.
You mentioned the header or the footer. What information should go on it? Our name?
A name and page number is probably enough. You can put your course name as well, especially if you're sending in a hard copy. It makes it easier for the office people to sort it out. Even just the course code's enough. Whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. What I've got. I just want to make sure that we've done all this. I think probably the most useful thing to do now is I've got a collection of books and journals, and there isn't quite enough for one each because there's quite a lot of you and the books are quite heavy, but there's at least enough for one between two, and I think it would be useful if you actually looked at the books and the journals and worked and essentially wrote an entry in the reference list so that you know that you can find the information. Before we do that though, I just want to talk about journals because they are different from books. So this one right here, Mr. Adams, this is a book, but I'm going to do a journal article now because they are a bit different, and you will be using journal articles. Okay, this is a journal. Physical journals you find down the right-hand end of the library. All the books are down the left-hand end as you're looking at me. So that end's books and that end's journals. Journals are in alphabetical order down the end. Books are in Dewey Decimal System, but the journals are, okay. So journals are very, very useful things because they take less effort to publish than a book, and so the information in them is usually quite specific and quite up to date. This is February 2012, and they get, you get articles like this which are written by a person and then they're published in the journal. So in the text you want the name of the author. So don't give me anything about the journal. I want the name of the author who actually wrote it, which is, in this case, Siwei Liu and Catherine Hines. Okay, so in the reference list, we're going... So far, so good. Then we want the year, which is 2012.
It's not an alphabetical order though.
No, that is because if you put Hines first, Ms. Liu will get very upset because she did most of the work. So whatever it says on the book, that is the order that you put it in, but it goes alphabetically under L, not under H.
So if you have a book with two authors, then they go in alphabetical?
No, if you have a book with two authors, they go in the order that they are written on the cover.
Oh, I thought you said they went in alphabetical.
No, only, no.
Yeah.
So there was
two It always helps if 6 people tell you, I think.
Two authors in the same book.
Two authors in the same book. You've got to give more credit to this lady because she, you know, it's like movie stars. There's a strict pecking order. Who goes first? You never put some obscure person before Brad Pitt. You know, that's trouble. Same deal. Okay, full stop. Now, here's where they start getting weird. What we need now is we need the name of the article, which is are difficulties balancing work and family associated with subsequent fertility. Random, I tell you. Okay, so in this case, it's not italics because italics is for the name of the book. This is not italics, so this is not the name of the book. So this is difficulties balancing work and family. That's not very long.
Take a break.
Because they're saying it's fertility after the fact. But you can read the article. Let's move right along here. Okay, so this is the name of the journal. Now you'll notice that they've all got capital letters in here, and I just disregarded that because they're not right. I'm right. Okay, now what you need is you need the name of the journal, and this is essentially the name of the book. Therefore, it goes in italics.
So after full stops, there's just one space when you reduce them, not two.
Correct. Yes, that's a good point. Thank you.
There's no commas in between there.
There's no what?
No commas after the journal name.
No, if this wasn't a question, it would have a full stop there.
Okay.
Not a comma. Yep.
I noticed you've capitalised both words.
A very good observation. This is to distinguish it from a normal book. This is saying this is actually a journal, not a book. So journals are a tiny bit special because you do it like this, and also the name of the journal has capitals on it. If it was a journal of family studies, then of wouldn't. So it's only significant news. But thank you for pointing that out. That is right. Okay. And then what you need is you need the volume and the number. And the volume goes in italics, which is me trying to make that look like italics. And then you have a bracket, and this is not in italics. And there's no space there. It looks very ugly. Every time I write it, it goes, ugh. But that's how you do it. The volume is in italics and the number is not italics. No space. And then, to make life even more interesting, you have to put page numbers in.
Is it 61? Not
Yes.
6?
Oh, yes, that's 61.
I thought that was 6.
No, I'm sorry, that's 61 in italics.
Is it 6? But there's a 1, not a dash.
Yeah, don't tell us.
It's 62.
And a very good question that is too, because my writing is not the best. Okay. And then you have space. We're nearly finished.
Do you have a comment there?
No. Oh, yes. Get a comment there, sorry. Okay, this right here, this is the volume.
Yeah.
This one, and that's in italics. This chap here, this is the number, and it's not in italics. These guys here, this is the page numbers. Okay, you will notice the discerning among you, but there's no P's here. It's just the numbers. You use P's when you're putting quotes in your work. I told you journals were interesting. You don't need publishing details because you've got everything you need right here. This has actually got a subtitle. It's called Family Relations, Interdisciplinary Journal of Applied Family Studies, but I couldn't be bothered writing that down, and you won't get the book, you can't either. Okay, so there you go.
So when you're citing it, you just going to have the author and the that's the same as the
Yes,
book.
same as the book. Author, no initials.
No initials, just the surname.
And you'll notice here, we don't care if they're doctors or reverends or whatever. We're only interested in the surname and the initial, not anything else. We don't care that much about those people. We just want the surname and the initials. Okay.